Few positions in rugby carry as much influence as the fly half. Wearing the number 10 jersey, the fly half is the heartbeat of the team. An on-field general who dictates the pace of play, orchestrates attacking patterns, and makes split-second decisions that can turn the tide of a match. Possibly the most coveted jersey in all of rugby. The British and Irish Lions fly half needs to be a proven game changer, with the ability to thread impossible passes, launch pinpoint kicks, and ultimately embrace both brilliance and responsibility. But the question is, who's leading the race for the Lions number 10 jersey for the tour to Australia? The most experienced guy in the mix, and someone I toured with in 2021, is Scotland's fly half, Finn Russell. His ability as, I suppose, the most all-rounded 10 in the Six Nations, with his ability and his range of passing, whether it's short passes, long passes, giving players time on the ball, and his ability to pick the right pass. Very, very rarely does Finn Russell pick the wrong pass, whether he plays short, out the back, over the top, missed passes. His passing game is absolutely magnificent. His ability to find those passes into the wide channels gives his 13, his 15, his wingers a lot more time on the ball to be able to beat people 1v1 or stretch teams defensively. He's got such a lovely balance to his game in the way that his run-kick-pass ratio, which is something that every 10 at international level should have, his ability to keep defences guessing with those short little crossfield kicks, those raking 50-22s, and those little dinks over the top, which just slow line speed down a little bit to allow him a little bit more time on the ball. He's probably traditionally not the most connected of 10s. He likes to leave play unfold for 2, 3, 4, 5 phases before he really connects up and gets involved in the game. His ability then to switch from being uninterested and letting his forwards do 3, 4, 5 phases, as I've just said, to then coming alive, showing a little inside ball, attacking the line when it's the right decision. Very rarely do you see him get caught with the ball when it's not really the right decision to attack the line, play an inside ball, or get his hands free himself. And in particular, when he's attacking left to right, he's got a super skill of attacking the line, getting his hands free and offloading out the back and bringing other people into play. So from that point of view, you'd have to say Finn Russell's all-round game is probably the most rounded of the players in the Six Nations. The other side of the ball, and something that is so important nowadays for an international 10, is the defensive side of the ball. And you cannot hide in this game. You cannot hide in Lions series. You cannot hide in Six Nations matches, even as a 10. And I think Finn Russell is probably the most improved 10 in that area. You used to probably think of Finn as a little bit of a soft touch in his early days. You could get some easy gains around there, but probably playing in France, playing in the top 14 for 4 or 5 years has really toughened him up. Now playing in the Premiership in an attritional league again, he's got the ability to not just make tackles, but really stick them and be quite aggressive in that as well. So if you're playing 10, it's not just about the flash moments, the moments of brilliance, which clearly Finn Russell has got, but you have to be able to roll your sleeves up, manage your game, get stuck in on the defensive side of the game. And that's something I think Finn Russell has improved over the last few years. Before, you'd probably just see your moments of brilliance, and then you'd probably see nothing out of him for the next 15, 20 minutes, or maybe the odd mistake. A moment of brilliance, a little bit of a mistake. A moment of brilliance, a mistake. Whereas now his ability to just keep calm and have that balance to his game and not be so up and down in the game, his ability to just stay in the moment, stay nice and calm, and also sort of roll his sleeves up a little bit more and get stuck in defensively. One thing that you will say about Finn Russell is that he has moments of brilliance and he can unlock defenses and he's a fabulous, fabulous rugby player. But you're probably also thinking how many mistakes are in him, and you probably what you want from your 10 is a 6.5, 7 out of 10. Certainly at international level, everyone thinks your 10 at international level needs to be the main guy, the picking the brilliant passes, the kicks, the breaks all the time. Whereas what you need from a 10 is 6.5 out of 10. 7 out of 10 every week. Really simple, pulling some strings, keeping nice and calm in your team. So you'd think you don't want to make too many errors. And that's something that Finn Russell, especially given the way that Ireland play, and potentially that's the way that the Lions are going to play in the summer, very structured base. And Finn's probably a little bit less system based. He likes that freedom. He likes that ability to change the direction of play, to maybe put a chip over the top in off the cuff, or change direction, or switch to play left to right or right to left. And I think when you're playing in that structure that Ireland play, it's very system orientated. And I'd have to say probably Finn is probably not the most system orientated guy. He likes being observing play, likes looking at what's in front of him for 2, 3, 4 phases before pulling the trigger. Whereas the system that Ireland play is very structured, connected all the time. How many options can you throw at the defensive line every single time they play? And I'd imagine that's the system that the Lions are going to take into the Tour of Australia this summer. So another player who's not particularly system-based and loves that freedom and the ability to play the game off the cuff is England's Marcus Smith. The way in which Marcus plays the game is exciting, it's fun, it's full of flair, it's full of excitement. He loves the ability to beat people one-on-one. You very rarely do you see Marcus sort of with that real ball movement and pulling people out of position that way. It's very much can he beat you on the outside? Can he step you? Can he bring people into play from getting people to turn in because of his pace, because of the way that he challenges the line in that way? What Marcus really does have is that sort of rock star ability and that X factor to light up a game in moments and, like I said, beat people one-on-one, a counter-attacking threat. Forget about if he's playing 15. Quite often, the way that international 10s play, they're in the backfield a lot. So Marcus's ability to then carry that ball back, beat people one-on-one, get his team moving forward and light up a stadium and a rugby field is incredible to see. And that's a huge, huge talent of Marcus's. He's not afraid to take on the attacking line, whether it be 2, 3, 4 phases on the spin. He's happy to get himself stuck in, which sometimes can harm him because he's out of the game and he's not managing the game then. He's not on his feet, not controlling things, not pulling people into position. But his ability, like I said, to beat people one-on-one, to get people to bite in because of his attacking threats from his speed, his footwork, his physical abilities is an absolute weapon for any team. Like I mentioned at the start of Marcus's section, he's not a particularly system-based 10, very similar to Finn Russell in the way that they play in terms of love having that freedom, love having the ability to maybe stay disconnected for 2, 3, 4 phases and pick their moments. Whereas, like I said, that island attacking shape is probably going to be asking you to be connected every time. Can you break your defensive team or can you get 1v1 with an attacking threat every single phase? So Marcus is going to have to be connected a lot more if he's going to play in that shape. But his ability to just let play unfold, and then just strike when it matters is a huge, huge strength of Marcus's. But I think when you look at the way he plays and the way Finn Russell play, they're actually quite similar in the way that they love having freedom, they love having the ability to just turn the game on a sixpence. But ultimately, the game at international level is a lot more than just having your moments and bringing people into play now and again. It's about controlling games, getting your team over the line in big matches, and winning test matches at international level. A huge tick in Marcus's column would be his versatility, his ability to play clearly 10, 15, and not just 10 or 15, but his ability to pop up at second receiver or in that 13 channel with his pace, with his footwork, with his handling ability to bring people into play. So quite often you'll see Marcus in those second, third receiver channels, but just because he's been at 10 or 15, he just floats around a little bit, like I said, because he's not connected all the time. That ability to play 15, to play in those 13 channels with his pace and footwork is a real asset to any team. And I think when he's not having to worry about controlling the game all the time and worrying about bringing people into play and playing the percentages, he's got that ability to then just strike when it matters. The big plus for Finn Russell and Marcus Smith in that sense, I suppose, from the game management point of view, is that you've probably got the best number 9 in the world, below Anton DuPont in Jameson Gibson Park, who's red hot favourite for that scrum half jersey. And he's probably going to be the one taking a lot of the game management on if you're going to select a Marcus Smith or a Finn Russell. In terms of just letting Marcus Smith and Finn Russell play their natural game, put a little bit more pressure onto Jameson Gibson Park if he's going to be the 9. He knows the system that they're probably going to play the Lions in the summer. Jameson Gibson Park's ability to take a short side, to bring his forwards into play, to play territory, to manage the game will allow someone like Marcus Smith, will allow someone like Finn Russell to just play their natural game, not afford them to be in system all the time and pass a bit of that pressure back onto Jameson Gibson Park. But the way that those two play, like I said, it's very much they want the freedom, they want the ability to change the structure, to change the point of attack whenever they want. And they're not particularly system-based 10s in terms of sticking to structures, being connected to every pod, challenging the line, creating 1v1s all the time. They like to pick their moments, but you can't deny that their ability to pick a pass, to beat a person 1v1 is what stands those two above anybody else. Marcus's ability to manage a game is something that probably people have questioned. I actually think he's improved a huge amount in that area over the last 12 months. But probably not getting over the line in big games when he started 10 is possibly going to count against him. I've got no doubt that Marcus will go on this tour because of his ability to play 15, because of his ability to play 10 and create something out of nothing and have X factor moments. But that's the big thing is can he manage a game? Can he get his team over the line in big games with his kicking out of hand, with his basics, I suppose. It's can he make sure that, and similar for Finn Russell in a sense, that can they really nail down their basics in big test matches and get their team over the line, which is something that Andy Farrell will be looking for. Another point which we have to bring into play, like we did with Finn Russell, is the other side of the ball. And I actually think Marcus is not a bad defender. He's probably not as offensive in the tackle as Finn Russell. But he doesn't miss many tackles, but makes his tackles, probably soaks up a little bit more. You've got a lot of heavy traffic coming in you when you're defending 10. And a big thing about defending 10, actually, when you're in that position, whether it's off scrum, whether it's off line out, quite often you're always looking at the ball and then you're changing your eye movement or your head movement the last moment. So it's very difficult actually to make loads of dominant shots, especially when you've got big number 8s, big second rows, big props coming down your channel. It's really difficult to, if you watch the ball and then you have to adjust late and you get caught quite square on, and you have to soak up a little bit. And that's probably something that Marcus is in at the minute, and he's probably soaking up a little bit. Doesn't miss many tackles, actually a good reader of the play, but probably doesn't quite make the dominant hits as someone like Finn Russell, which is something that they'll have to weigh up in Lions selection. So the last of the front runners, I suppose, is a guy that 6 months ago not many people would have heard of, and he's been fast-tracked into the Irish number 10 jersey after some impressive performances at the end of the autumn, and his first 2 weeks of the Six Nations, he's been absolutely magnificent, and that's Sam Prendergast. He's only 22, but he looks as if he's been playing the game for years and years and years at international level. What I've been really, really impressed with him is his temperament, in that he's never looked flustered, even when he's had some tricky moments, and it hasn't all been absolutely plain sailing for him. But he's looked like he's got time on the ball, which is a sign of a very good player. He looks like he takes the right options all the time. He doesn't look as if he gets flustered and throws a miracle ball or tries forcing things. He looks nice and calm, nice and relaxed. And I suppose I mentioned that Marcus Smith and Finn Russell probably aren't that particularly system-based. But this guy is very, very system-based in terms of he's come through the system at Leinster. Leinster play a very similar style of play to what Ireland do. And what I mean by being a system-based player is that you know everybody's role. Very similar to probably a Johnny Sexton in terms of bossing people around. He's got that authority. He's got that ability to boss his team around, put his team in the right areas, but connected every single phase. Whether it's that pod off 9, whether it's that pod off 10, he's making sure that he's connected to everything and challenging the line at the right time. He's not going to challenge the line just for the sake of challenging the line. He's an excellent distributor, and he brings people into play with his long passing game. But he keeps himself on his feet, and he allows himself to dictate play, to bring people into play, whether it's James Lowe on the inside, whether it's Bundy Aki on a short ball, whether it's Mac Hansen on a ball out the back, whatever it is. He's a very system-orientated player, and he makes a good decision when to kick, a good decision when to pass, and a good decision when to challenge the line and get his hands free. So that's what I mean by a system-based player. And his familiarity with the system, with the players, with the coaches, is going to put him in a really strong position. I think you look at the way he's played in the opening couple of weekends of the Six Nations, and clearly Sam Prendergast is a very, very good player and a talented player. And you look at the way that the system is based and the system is formed, it's perfect for a young 10 or a player with so much quality like he has to come in and just hit the ground running, because he's got your Bundy Akis in your experience, he's got your Robbie Henshaws, your Gary Ringroses, your Jamison Gibson Parks, your Caelan Dorises, etc., around him to help him. And I think, those players that I've just mentioned are probably going to be right in the mix for starting in that opening Lions test in Australia. So the ability for him to come in and just slot in, know that Robbie Henshaw, Bundy Aki, Caelan Doris, Jameson Gibson Park know what they're going to do, because he's been playing with them for Leinster, because he's been playing with them for Ireland, because he's been training with them all the time. I I think is a massive, massive plus and a huge positive for Sam Prendergast. What I'm really, really impressed about him with is the confidence, and nothing shows that like the spiral kicks. You very, very rarely do you see 10s or anybody spiraling the ball at the minute. You look at most kickers are end over end and play the percentages, but this guy's thought, he's coming into this team, he's coming into with his shoulders pinned back. He's a tall lad at the best of times. He looks like he's grown a few inches on the pitch already, and he's just spiraling that ball 22 to 22, and it moves a team up the pitch. And someone may think, 10 meters, 15 meters here or there doesn't make a huge difference. But the way that you can keep teams moving back, the way that you can keep applying pressure, the way that you can keep asking teams to keep attacking from deep because of that extra length that he's getting with those spiral kicks, is a huge, huge asset, and something that, along with someone like a James Lowe in your team, it's going to be a perfect counterbalance. The one thing that may count against Sam Prendergast in the race for the Lions number 10 shirt is potentially his lack of experience. He's only got 5 Ireland caps. I think it's around 30, just under 30 Leinster appearances. So that lack of big game experience, I suppose, when the pressure really comes on in a Lions test decider, for example, or in that first test, that first 20 minutes when Australia are going to be absolutely flying into everything with your Valentinis, your Swahilis, your Karevis, etc., coming challenging that defensive channel. I suppose that's the one thing that we don't quite know about Sam Prendergast at the minute is that big match experience. But the way that he's handled himself so far, he looks like he's got the ability to handle that. And who knows, if Ireland end up winning the championship, potentially the Grand Slam, and Sam Prendergast continues to play as he is and as he has been, then those, it doesn't matter if you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 caps or 100 caps, he's going to be in form. He's going to be playing in big matches. And I think he's going to be playing in bigger matches with Leinster as well. They're going to be in the knockout stages of Europe. They're going to be pushing in the URC in big matches. They're unbeaten in the league at the minute, so they're going to be there or thereabouts. And it's only going to help Sam Prendergast if he goes on and plays in big Six Nations deciders, big European quarterfinals, semi-finals, potentially finals in the URC as well. It's only going to help his cause by playing in those big matches as well. Also in with a shout after his incredible performance against France at Allianz Stadium a couple of weeks ago is another 22-year-old, Finn Smith. The way in which Finn Smith plays the game is very much a classic mould of a 10 in terms of he's a good facilitator, a good passer, very, very much connected all the time, wants to challenge the line with his ball movement. And what I mean by that, he's got the ability to just hold the ball up for a split second. He's got the ability to get the ball through his hands really quickly when it's required. And that's a sign of a really good player, that he can pick the pass, he can bring people into play. You saw that against France at Allianz Stadium, the way in which he just brought people into play, the way he got people into the game. And that's a real strength of Finn Smith's. And you've seen it with Northampton over the last 12, 18 months, where he's grown and grown and grown, bringing good players into the game, whether it's forwards with a delay of a pass, putting them through the holes, making them win collisions because of the timing of his pass, or whether it's a ball for someone like an Elliot Daly on a shoulder ball, whether it's a ball over the top. His passing range and his ability to move the ball, hold the ball up, is something that sets him apart. And as I mentioned with Sam Prendergast, he's very much a connected 10 and very much a system-based 10 in terms of, again, likes to stay connected out the back of pods, likes to be involved in a lot of plays, but also likes to stay on his feet, likes to organise things, likes to boss things. He's a confident guy who's not afraid to sort of tell some big names and some big players where to be, where to go in the system. And I think that's really important. You look at Finn Smith, you look at Sam Prendergast, they look like they really know and can understand the system that they're playing in, and they buy into that and just stay connected all the time. Know what the next play is, know what lines everybody else should be running, not just their own roles. And that's a huge, huge positive. Out of the 10s in the Six Nations, I have to say, I think he's probably the best defensively. He's not a big guy, but he certainly whacks people he's brave, he puts his head in the spokes, and he's not afraid to get stuck in. And I think, again, like we said, when you've got guys like Rob Valentini, Karevi, Swahili, those guys coming down your channel, it's important that you've got a guy who's brave, who's going to make his tackles, and he's going to be offensive, and Finn Smith is certainly that. And let's not forget about Jack Crowley, who 12 months ago guided Ireland to a Six Nations Championship, a drawn series in South Africa, away from home in the world champions' backyard. He looks set to be the long-term successor for Johnny Sexton's Irish number 10 shirt. And the way in which he did that was from aggressiveness. He's a real sort of gain line player, likes to challenge it, likes a bit of a battle on the gain line, is tough as anything, can physically match it with anyone in terms of 10. He's not afraid to sort of get stuck in and drag his team through it a little bit. But in a similar vein, I suppose, to your Finn Smiths and your Prendergast, he's a lovely player of the ball in terms of movement of the ball, gets his team going. Variety of his kicking game is actually very, very good. Lots of little crossfield kicks, lots of sort of little grubber kicks in behind, keeping defenses guessing. You also think he's been in some pretty big clutch moments as well. You think of the drop goal against Leinster. You think of the series in South Africa. You think of the championship 12 months ago. You know, he's been there in big matches and got his team over the line as well. So that's going to count hugely in his favour. He's a really solid player. Love the way that he attacks the line, can beat people as well. But he's got a real nice balance to his game, and he's someone that I don't think we should be forgetting too quickly. So for the final two wildcards, and I think they are wildcards, you've got two English guys in George Ford and Owen Farrell. And George Ford is one of those guys, been there, done it, 98 England caps, steered England to big wins when England were really successful. You think of that 2019 victory over the All Blacks. You think of the 2016 Grand Slam, the 17 Championship. George Ford was at the heart of that. So he knows how to win big matches with club and country. And he's someone that, if the Lions decided to go down that route, could do a lot worse. And I suppose Owen Farrell, again, is someone who is just been there, done it. Countless medals, countless big match experience, countless times that he's been there, done it, worn the T-shirt, and an unbelievable goal kicker. An unbelievable temperament on him, and someone who would thrive. Everyone calls him a test match animal, but that's what he is. He would thrive in that first Lions test or the Lions series decider, as he has done previously. So those two are the real wild cards. But certainly, if you're going to call on people who've been there, done it, and got the T-shirt, those two wouldn't be a million miles away from where you'd look. So you look at all those players that we've just mentioned, all absolutely fabulous players in their own rights, with their own strengths, their own weaknesses, their own way that they play the game. But one thing I was thinking that could be a real deal breaker on selection is that the goal kicking side of things. Now, when you pick a 10, normally they're going to be the guys who are doing your goal kicking. So they've got to run your game, you've got to make your tackles, you've got to organise people, but you've also got to kick your goals and keep the points ticking over in big test matches to win games. This Lions tour probably isn't going to be one like 2013 where you've got a Lee Halfpenny who's absolutely metronomic, and you can just say to your 10, who was Johnny Sexton at that time, go and run our team, go and run our attacking shape, go and run our exits, go and run our game, and don't worry, don't get stressed about your goal kicking or the extra pressure that brings with it. Similar to sort of what France have got at the minute with Intermac, in terms of he's just got the ability to just play his game without any pressure, because he knows he's got probably the best goal kicker in the world in Tomo Ramos to take all that pressure off him. What the Lions haven't got is that this time around. So that whether you go Finn Russell, whether you go Marcus Smith, whether you go Finn Smith, Prendergast, Crowley, Ford, all those guys, they're going to be the ones that have got to run the game, make your tackles, bring people into play, sort everything out, but also kick the goals as well. So this, for me, could well be the deal breaker on selection. So what I think potentially will be the deal breaker on selection is the goal kicking. And if you look at the goal kicking percentage and the goal kicking stats for those three front runners that we mentioned, Finn Russell, Marcus Smith, and Sam Prendergast, you look at Finn Russell, he's at 81%. Marcus Smith, he's at 83%, and Sam Prendergast is at 79%. So there's not a huge amount in it. So if you're Andy Farrell and you're in a coaching selection meeting and you're thinking, right, it's a 50-50 call between a Russell, a Marcus Smith, a Prendergast, you're going to want the guy who has got probably the best kicking stats and the guy who you think is going to nail those kicks, nail those big moments. You think back to 2009 when Mornay Steyn, who at that point in time was the best goal kicker in the world, nails one from 50 metres to win a Lions Test series. 12 years later, Mornay Steyn at 36 was in that South Africa squad, that Springbok squad, for exactly the reason that he came on with 10 minutes to go, whatever it was, to nail an important kick. And sometimes when it comes down to it, you can have all the attacking flair, you can have all the attacking process, you can have brilliant passing, brilliant kicking, brilliant tackling, etc., etc. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, you need those guys who've got the ability and the temperament and the accuracy to be able to nail you big kicks to win big series. So today's Tour Watch, connected by Vodafone, is who I think will start in that number 10 shirt for the British and Irish Lions on the 19th of July, 2025 in Brisbane. If you were picking the team tomorrow, I would pick Finn Russell for his all-around game, his experience, and his form since the last Lions tour. But I think, and this is a big statement, but I think Sam Prendergast will start in that first test for the Lions against the Wallabies. And I'm saying that off the basis because I think Ireland are going to win the championship, potentially the Grand Slam. And I think that Leinster are going to be right there or thereabouts in the URC in big matches and potentially in Europe. I've just been really impressed with how he's taken to international rugby. I think he looks assured, he looks positive. And for me, in a Lions year, it's not really about, who's got the best reputation or who's got the best skill set. It's all about sort of who's playing the best rugby and who's going to be right in the mix and playing with confidence and challenging themselves at the highest level. And I believe that Sam Prendergast is going to be involved in big games, and I think he's going to get better and better and better. I do think for Sam Prendergast to start in that British and Irish Lions first test against the Wallabies, I think he has to be really successful over the next couple of months. But I think if that's not the case, I think then you've got the ability to fall back to a world-class operator and a guy who's probably got the best all-round game out of everybody in Finn Russell, to know that you've got such a safe pair of hands and someone who's been there, done it a little bit. But I do think that if Sam Prendergast guides Ireland to a Six Nations title or a Grand Slam, guides Leinster to a first trophy in quite a few years, and then it's very, very difficult to look past him in a Lions year when he's banging form and potentially winning trophies.
Pod.
Rugby Pod.